So Who Am I This Time by Kurt Vonnegut. And obviously you can see the relevance of the title, right? All these titles have some type of relevance. That was the last line that was kind of repeated before it was closed. So the North Crawford, so this is where it's set, Mask and Wig Club, an amateur theatrical society I belong to, voted to do Tennessee Williams, A Streetcar Named Desire for the spring play. So we know the town, and then the other thing here, I really quickly want to mention that we haven't much before. I belong to. We want to think about who's the narrator in this as we go through this. Doris Sawyer, who always directs, said she couldn't direct this time because her mother was so sick. And she said the club ought to develop some other directors anyways, because she couldn't live forever, even though she'd made it safely to 74. So I got stuck with the directing job, even though the only thing I directed before was the installation of combination aluminum storm windows and screens I'd sold. So again, first person narrator. That's what I am, a salesman of storm windows and doors, and here and there a bathtub enclosure. As far as acting goes, the highest rank I ever held on stage was either butler or policeman, whichever is higher. I made a list of conditions before I took the acting job, and the biggest one was that Harry Nash, the only real actor the club has to take the Marlon Brando part of the play. So everyone knows Harry, right? Such a good actor. To give you an idea of how versatile Harry is, inside of 1 year, he was Captain Queeg in the Kane Mutiny Court Martial, and then Abe Lincoln in Illinois, and then the young architect in The Moon is Blue. The year after that, Harry Nash was Henry VIII in Anne of a Thousand Days, and Doc in Come Back and Little Sheba. And I was after him for Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire. Harry wasn't at the meeting to say whether he'd take the part or not. He never came to meetings. So we're seeing evidence of how, he's shy still, right? Never came to meetings. He was too shy. He didn't stay away from meetings because he had something else to do. He wasn't married. He didn't go out with women, didn't have any close men friends either. He stayed away from all types of gatherings because he could never think of anything to do or say without a script. So he's helpless if he doesn't have a line in front of him. So I had to go down to Miller's hardware store where Harry was a clerk. So there's a Miller's hardware store where Harry was a clerk. The next day I asked him if he'd take the part. I stopped off at the telephone company to complain about a bill I'd gotten for a call to Honolulu. I'd never called Honolulu in my life. And there was this beautiful girl I'd never seen before behind the counter at the phone company. And she explained that the company had put in an automatic billing machine and that the machine didn't have all the bugs out of it yet. It made mistakes. Not only did I not call Honolulu, I told her, I don't think anyone in North Crawford ever has or will. So this beautiful girl, of course, we know is Helene at this moment in time, right? So again, Helene is here with her phone company to do those automatic billing machines because they don't have the bugs out of it yet. Not that important to know exactly why, but this is why she's in tech. So she took the charge off the bill, and I asked her if she was from around North Crawford. She just said no. She said how she just came with the new billing machine to teach local girls how to take care of it. And after that, she said she would go with some other machine to someplace else. Well, I said, as long as people have come along with the machines, I guess we're all right. So what's Helene's job? She travels from place to place, installing these machines. She trains the people, and then she goes to a new one, right? So after that, she said she would go she would go with some other machine to someplace else. So her job is a traveling salesperson, right? She's never in the same place very long. What she said? Well, when machines start delivering themselves, I said, I guess that's when people start really worrying. Oh, she said, she didn't seem very interested in that subject. And I wondered if she was interested in anything. She seemed kind of numb, almost like a machine herself, an automatic phone company politeness machine. So this is kind of mean, right? She doesn't seem interested in anything. She's pretty numb. She's a machine herself. But it's a description of the character, right? So we're going to eventually have to start analyzing these characters. So this is something that's pretty nice to know about Helene. And what I personally like doing is I like writing down, hey, there's this character right here, just so I know that, oh, something important about Aline is here. Could be. We could very well make that argument. How long will you be in town here? I asked her. I stay in each town around 8 weeks, sir, she said. She had pretty blue eyes, but there wasn't much hope or curiosity in them. Again, really mean, but analyzing the character, right? She told me she has been going from town to town like that for 2 years, always a stranger. So again, right now we're gathering evidence for a potential claim we might have as how she is as a character. So this might be important to what our claim is. So I'm gonna just make a note of that. And I got it in my head that she would make a good Stella. I'm just gonna go to the next part here. I got it in my head that she'd make a good Stella for the play. Stella was the wife of Marlon Brando character, the wife of the character I wanted Harry Nash to play. So I told her where and when we were going to hold trials, and said the club would be very happy if she'd come. She looked surprised. She warmed up a little. You know, she said, that's the first time anyone's ever asked me to participate in any community thing. So, hey, this is the first time anyone's like asked me to do something. And what'd she do? She warmed up. She seems to want that, right? She was this really cold, like machine person. All of a sudden, now she has a little bit more personality. Oops. Well, I said, there isn't any other way to get to know a lot of nice people faster than to be in a play with them. She said her name was Helene Shaw. She said she just might surprise me and herself. She said she just might come. You would think that North Crawford would be fed up with Harry Nash in plays after all he'd been in. But the fact was that North Crawford probably could have gone on enjoying Harry forever because he was never Harry on stage. So I think we probably already know a lot about Harry. I don't think we need to know much more. Like I think we know how he is as a character, right? He's shy, he's unconfident, but he has this way of really doing well in plays. So there's nothing too surprising to us, but I'm still just going to put that in here anyways. There's Harry, that's smaller. When the maroon curtain went up on the stage in the gymnastic of the Consolidated Junior Senior High School, Harry, body and soul, was exactly what the script and director told him to be. He puts his all on it. He's like Christian Bale from a small town. Someone once said that Harry ought to go to a psychiatrist so he could be something important and colorful in real life too. So he could get married anyway and maybe get a better job than just clerking in Miller's hardware store for $50 a week. But I don't know what a psychiatrist could have had turned up about him that the town didn't already know. The trouble with Harry was that he'd been left on the doorstep of the Unitarian church when he was a baby, and he'd never find out who his parents were. So, again, we're learning a lot about him here. Hey, he should really go to a psychiatrist so he can do something, right? He should get married. He should get a better job. So his entire town sees the potential in him, right? But they also know why he seems so, why he is the way he is, which is one important question, right? How come Harry's so shy? He doesn't make decisions. He can't talk to women. Well, they're saying it's because he got abandoned as a kid, right? He was left on the doorstep of a church and never found out who his parents were. So Harry was abandoned. When I told him there in Miller's that I'd been appointed director, that I wanted him in my play, he said what he always said to anyone. He said what he always said to anybody who asked him to be in a play. And it was the kind of sad, if you think about it, who am I this time? So again, the fact he says this, they said it's kind of sad. He said that he said what he always said to anybody who helped him, who asked him to be in a play, and it was kind of sad to think about it. Who am I this time? So there's the relevance of the title. But how come this is sad? How come it's sad that they're saying it's sad? He always says that. Who am I? Who am I?
He doesn't know who he is himself.
doesn't know who he is or doesn't like who he is. And how come it's sad? Well, because they said it right above. He could be so much more if he develops some confidence. So I held the tryouts where they always were held, in the meeting room on the second floor of the North Crawford Public Library. Doris Sawyer, the woman who usually directs, came to give me the benefit of all of her experience. The two of us sat and stayed upstairs while the people who wanted parts waited below. We called them upstairs one by one. So at this point, we get a little bit more of an idea of who our director is. Who our narrator is. Probably the director of the play, right? The narrator seems to be the director of the play. We get our first real tip here about that. We don't really need to care about the other characters that much, because we already know how the story plays out. If we were reading this for the first time, we would probably be making notes on this Doris Sawyer woman and more notes on this director. But they're not that pivotal to the play. Harry Nash came to tryouts, even though it was a waste of time. I guess he wanted to get that little bit more acting in. So he never goes anywhere, right? But he'll still go to the tryouts to get that little bit of acting. So he'll do anything to act a little bit. For Harry's pleasure and our pleasure too, we had him read from the scene where he beats up his wife. It was a play in itself, the way Harry did it, and Tennessee Williams hadn't written it all either. Tennessee Williams didn't write the part, for instance, where Harry, who weighs about 145, who's about 5 feet 8 inches tall, added 50 pounds to his weight and 4 inches to his height by just picking up a playbook. He had this short. So before I even go into that, so Harry, so Harry's this really like small guy, 145 pounds, 5'8". He adds this height, he adds this weight when he picks up a playbook. What does that mean? He's such a good actor, he convinces you that he's this different person. His confidence really shines out. So we see his confidence here really emerge, his skill really emerge. He transforms. He had a short little double-breasted bellows back grade school graduation suit coat on and a dinky little red tie with a horse head on it. So he's wearing his stuff from school and he has a bow tie, right? The point they're trying to portray here is he's kind of a nerd, right? He's kind of a geek. He doesn't have a lot of fashion sense. He took off the coat and tie, opened his collar, and then turned his back to Doris and me, getting up the steam for the part. He was a great big rip, and there was a great big rip in the back of his shirt, and it looked like a fairly new shirt too. He ripped it on purpose, so he could just be that much more like Marlon Brando, right from the first. When he faced us again, he was huge and handsome and conceited and cruel. All right, so this is where he can really transform here, right? We see this transformation that he can do. So Doris read the part of spell of the wife, and Harry bullied that old lady into believing that she was a sweet, pregnant girl married to a sexy gorilla who was going to beat her brains out. She had me believing it too. And I read the lines of Blanche, her sister in the play, and darned if Harry didn't scare me into feeling like a drunk and faded Southern belle. So again, he's such a good actor. And then while Doris and I were getting over our emotional experiences, like people coming from under Ether, Harry put down the playbook, put on his coat and tie, and turned into the pale store hardware clerk again, right? So the second he stops acting, he turns into, this really awkward guy. So again, he transforms back. Going to page 19. Was that all right? He said, and he seemed pretty sure he wouldn't get the part. Again, he just had this super stellar performance, right? He had them believe in like all this stuff. It's like, am I going to get the part? Is that okay? Awkward, right? Can't read a room well. Well, I said for the first reading, that wasn't too bad, right? That's clearly sarcasm. Is there a chance I'll get the part? He said. I don't know why he always had to pretend there was some doubt about his getting the part, but he did. I think we can safely say we're leaning powerfully in your direction, I told him. He was very pleased. Thanks a lot, he said, and he shook my hand. Is there a pretty new girl downstairs? I said, meaning Helene Shaw. I didn't notice, said Harry. It turned out that Helene Shaw had come for tryouts, and Doris and I had our hearts broken. We thought the North Crawford Mask and Wig Club was finally going to get a really good-looking, really young girl on stage instead of the one of the beat-up 40-year-old women we generally have to palm off as girls. Really, really cruel, right? Really mean. But Helene Shaw couldn't act for sour apples. No matter what we gave her to read, she was the same girl with the same smile for anybody who had a complaint about his phone bill. So she can't act very well. And who she isn't very exciting, right? You know, he immediately insulted her once he saw her in the phone shop, right? So she cannot act at all.
It was weird how like in the movie, as soon as like Christopher Walken walked into the room, they started like acting in front of each other. It's like you got the role. And, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, they changed some stuff for film adaptations. But yeah. So Doris tried to coach her some to make her understand that Stella in the play was a very passionate girl who loved the gorilla because she needed a gorilla. But Helene just read the lines the same way again. I don't think a volcano could have stirred her up to say easy. Again, nothing's like she's just so monotone. Nothing gets her excited at all. Dear, said Doris, I'm going to ask you a personal question. All right, said Helene. Have you ever been in love? Said Doris. The reason I asked, she said, remembering some old love might help you put some more warmth in your acting. Helene frowned and thought hard. Well, she said, I travel a lot, you know, and practically all the men in the different companies I visit are married, and I never stay in a place long enough to know many people who aren't. So the answer to that is, has she ever been in love? Not really. All she does is travel, and the men she does meet are already married. So we get a little bit of an idea about Helene's life right now. So Helene has never really dated. Is a fair thing we could probably claim. We could probably claim that she's never dated someone. And why? Because she's always traveling. The people she do meet are already married. So what about school, said Doris? What about puppy love and all the other kinds of love? So Helene thought about that too. And she said, even in school, I was always moving around a lot. My father was a construction worker, following jobs around. So I was always saying hello or goodbye to someplace without anywhere in between. So again, all she's ever done is travel. Said Doris, would movie stars count? Said Helene. I don't mean in real life. I never knew any, but I just made up on the screen. Doris looked at me and rolled her eyes. I guess that's love of a kind, she said. And then Helene got a little enthusiastic. I used to sit through movies over and over again, he said, and pretend I was married to whoever the man movie star was. They were the only people who came with us. No matter where we moved, movie stars were there. Uh-huh, said Doris. Well, thank you, Miss Shaw, I said. You can go downstairs and wait with the rest. We'll let you know. So we tried to find another Stella, and there just wasn't one. Not one woman in the club with dew still on her. All we've got are the Blanches, I said. All we had were faded women who could play the part of Blanche, Stella's faded sister. That's life, I guess. 20 Blanches to one Stella. And when you find a Stella, said Doris, it turns out she doesn't know what love is. Doris and I had decided there was one last thing we could try. We could get Harry Nash to play a scene along with Helene. She just might make her bubble at least. He just might make her bubble the least little bit. So they're just trying to get her to, actually act. She's just reading lines right now. That girl hasn't got a bubble in her, said Doris. So we called downstairs for Helene to come back, and we told somebody to go find Harry. Harry never sat with the rest of the people at tryouts or at rehearsals either. Again, more evidence that Harry is just some shy guy. We've got Harry and Helene here. Okay. 21. The minute he didn't have a part to play, he disappeared into some hiding place where he could hear people call him, but where he couldn't be seen. So, at this point, I think we have so much evidence about, how Harry is. I think we can make a really powerful claim about his character. At tryouts, he generally hide in the reference room, passing the time to look at flags of different countries in the front of the dictionary. So how does he pass time? He reads a dictionary. Helene came back upstairs and we were very sorry and surprised to see that she had been crying. Oh dear, said Doris. Oh my. Now what's on earth's the troubles, dear? I was terrible, wasn't I? Said Helene, hanging her head. Doris said the only thing anyone can say in an amateur theatrical society when someone cries. She said, why no, dear, you're marvelous. No, I wasn't, said Helene. I'm a walking icebox and I know it. Nobody can look at you and say that, said Doris. When they get to know me, they can say it, said Helene. When people get to know me, that's when they do say it. And her tears got worse. So she's not just upset because she's a bad actor. She's upset because people just don't like her. She doesn't seem to have any emotion at all. So even Helene says, she's boring. You can put whatever word you want there, but she seems to be boring. She's doesn't have a good personality. It's not that she doesn't have a good personality. She just has no personality. Her tears got worse. I don't want to be the way I am, she said. I just can't help it. Living the way I've lived all my life. The only experiences I've ever had have been in the crazy dreams of movie stars. When I meet somebody nice in real life, I feel as though I was into some kind of big bottle, as though I couldn't touch that person no matter how hard I tried. And Helene pushed on air as if there was a big bottle all around her. So we're getting to know a lot about Helene now, right? She doesn't want to be the way she is. But I can't help it. I've lived like this my entire life. How she lived, traveling from place to place, never really getting to know somebody that close, never having a chance, right? You asked me if I've ever been in love, she said to Doris. No, but I want to. I know what this play is about. I know what Stella's supposed to feel and why she feels it. She said, and her tears wouldn't let her go on. You what, dear? Said Doris gently. I said Helene, and she puts on the imaginary bottle again. I just don't know how to begin. She doesn't know how to show emotion and express herself, right? I don't know how to begin. So she doesn't know how to show emotion. She's a bad actor. There was heavy clumping on the library stairs, sounding like a deep sea diver coming upstairs in his lead shoes. It was Harry Nash turning himself into Marlon Brando. In he came, practically dragging his knuckles on the floor, like he's supposed to, play a guy like a gorilla, right? And he was so much in character that the sight of a weeping woman made him sneer. Harry, I said, I'd like you to meet Helene Shaw. Helene, this is Harry Nash. If you get the part of Stella, he'll be your husband in the play. Harry didn't offer to shake hands. He put his hands in his pockets and he hunched over and he looked her up and down. gave her looks that left her naked. Her tears stopped right then and there. I wonder if you two could play the fight scene, I said, and then the reunion scene right after it. Sure, said Harry, his eyes still on her. Those eyes burned up clothes faster than she could put them on. Sure, he said, if Stella's game. What? Said Helene. She turned the color of cranberry juice. Stella, Stella, said Harry, that's you. Stella's my wife. I handed the two of them playbooks. Harry snatched his from me without a word of thanks. Helene's hands weren't working very well, and I kind of had to mold them around the book. So she's starstruck, right? Like, oh my God, what's this guy? Like how he looks and how he acts is like confusing her. I'll want something I can throw, said Harry. What? I said. There's one place where I throw a radio out a window, said Harry. What can I throw? So I said an iron paperweight was the radio, and I opened the window wide. Helene Shaw looked scared to death. Where do you want us to start, said Harry, and he rolled up his shoulders like a prize fighter warming up. Start a few lines back from where you throw the radio out the window, I said. Okay, okay. Said Harry, warming up, warming up. He scanned the stage directions. Let's see. After I throw the radio, she runs off stage and I chase her and I sock her one. That right, I said. Okay, baby. Harry said to Helene, his eyelids drooping. What was about to happen was wilder than a chariot race in Ben-Hur. On your mark, said Harry. Get ready, baby, go. When the scene was over, Helene Shaw was as hot as a hod carrier, as limp as an eel. She sat down with her mouth open and her head hanging to one side. She wasn't in any bottle anymore. There wasn't any bottle to hold her up and keep her safe and clean. The bottle was gone. So this bottle was referenced all the time by her, right? She's in this glass bottle. She doesn't know how to show emotions. Has anyone here ever seen Anchorman? Like I'm in a glass box of emotions. That's what she's doing here right now. So after this acting, she's as hot as a hod carrier, as limp as an eel. She's completely infatuated with him, right? Do I get the part or don't I? Harry snarled at me. You'll do, I said. You said a mouthful, he said. I'll be going now. See you around, Stella, he said to Helene, and he left. He slammed the door behind him. Helene, I said, Miss Shaw. Me? She said. The part of Stella is yours, I said. You were great. I was, she said. I had no idea you had that much fire in you, dear, Doris said to her. Fire, said Helene. She didn't know if she was afoot or on horseback. Skyrockets, pinwheels, Roman candles, said Doris. Is that MF? Me, said Helene, and that was all she said. She looked as though she was going to sit in the chair with her mouth open forever. Stella, I said. Huh? She said. You have my permission to go. So we started having rehearsals 4 nights a week on the stage of the Consolidated School. And Harry and Lee set such a pace that everyone in production was half crazy with excitement and exhaustion before we rehearsed 4 times. Usually director has to beg people to learn their lines, but I had no such trouble. Harry and Helene were working so well together that everyone else in the cast regarded it as a duty and an honor and a pleasure to support them. I was certainly lucky, or so I thought, that things were going so well, so hot and heavy, so early in the game that I had to say to Harry and Helene after one love scene, hold a little something back for the actual performance, would you please? You'll burn yourselves out. So they're so into each other. They're such good actors together that they're like, whoa, 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 calm down, calm down. So we see that they're working well together, right? Now, obviously Harry's acting. At this point, do we think that Helene's acting, or is she just like genuinely into him?
She genuinely likes him.
Yeah, she's really into him, right? So she's not really acting. She's like, ooh, I get to make out with him. I said at the 4th or 5th rehearsal, and Lydia Miller, who was playing Blanche, the fated sister, was sitting next to me in the audience. In real life, she's the wife of Vern Miller. Vern owned Miller's hardware store. Vern was Harry's boss. Again, this is another character who, if we didn't know what was happening in the story, we would start making notes about right now. But we know she's not this major role. The only thing the only real role she has in this is telling Helene, like, that's not who Harry is.
Oh, Vern Harry's boss.
Yes. Yeah. Vern was Harry's boss. Lydia, I said to her, have we got a play or have we got a play? Yes, she said. You've got a play already. She made it sound as though it committed some kind of crime, done something just terrible. You should be very proud of yourself. What do you mean by that? Before Lydia can answer, Harry yelled at me from the stage, asked if I was through with him, asked if he could go home. I told him that he could, and still, Marlon Brando. He left, kicking furniture out his way and slamming doors. Helene was left all alone on stage, sitting on the couch that was with the same gaga look she had after the tryout. This girl was drained. I turned to Lydia again and I said, well, until now, I thought I had every reason to be happy and proud. Is there something going on I don't know about? Do you know that girl's in love with Harry? Said Lydia. In the play? I asked. What play? Said Lydia. There isn't any play going on. And look at her up there. She gave a sad cackle. You aren't directing this play. So there isn't any play going on. There isn't any play going on, right? She's not acting. She's genuinely in love with him.
Pretty much the whole movie was like, he was had all the deals for him.
Absolutely, right? Who is Mother Nature at her worst? And think about what it's going to do to that girl when she discovers what Harry really is. So again, we know what Harry really is. She doesn't. What Harry really isn't, she said. I didn't do anything about it because I didn't figure it was any of my business. I heard Lydia try to do something about it, but she didn't get very far. You know, Lydia said to Helene one night, I once played Anne Rutledge, and Harry was Abraham Lincoln. Helene clapped her hands. That must have been heaven, she said. It was, in a way, said Lydia. Sometimes I'd get so worked up. I'd love Harry the way I'd love Abraham Lincoln. I'd have to come back to earth and remind myself that he wasn't ever going to free the slaves, and he was just a clerk in my husband's hardware store. Again, he's such a good actor, but you have to remind yourself, like, he's not who he is on stage. Who he is just this boring, pale hardware clerk. He's the most marvelous man I ever met, said Helene. Of course, one thing you have to get set for when you're in a play with Harry is what happens after the last performance. What are you talking about? Once the show's over, whatever you thought Harry was just evaporates into thin air. Yeah, the second he leaves, you see him on Monday, right? He's this boring pale guy again. I don't believe it, said Helene. I admit it's hard to believe, said Lydia. Then Helene got a little sore. Anyways, why tell me about it? Even if it's true, why do I care? I don't know, said Lydia backing away. I just thought you might find it interesting. Well, I don't, said Helene. And Lydia slunk away, feeling about as frowsy and unloved as she was supposed to feel in the play. After that, nobody said anything more to Helene to warn her about Harry. Not even when word got around that she told the telephone company she didn't want to be moved around anymore. She wanted to stay in North Crawford. So
like people started getting wind of them, like, you know, forming a relationship or something.
Well, yeah, like people realize that, oh my God, she's head over heels for him, but everyone else knows what Harry's like. But how come no one else told her? Because she doesn't want to hear, right? So, oops, Helene didn't want to hear how Harry was, right? She got mad at this woman for telling her. And also, we know that she's so in love with him, she chooses to stay. So she stays in the town. She basically quit her job. So the time finally came to put on the play. We ran it for 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we murdered those audiences. They believed every word what was said on stage. When the maroon curtain came down, they were ready to go to the nut house along with Blanche, the fated sister. On Thursday night, the other girls at the telephone company sent Helene a dozen roses. When Helene and Harry were taking a curtain call together, I passed the roses over the footlights to her. She came forward with them, took one rose from her bouquet to give to Harry, but when she turned to give Harry the rose in front of everyone, Harry was gone. The curtain came down on that extra little scene. That girl offering a rose to nothing and nobody. Oops, that's what I thought I wanted to do. So the first play went so good, right? First play went incredible. She gets roses. She goes to give it to Harry, and Harry was gone. And this is kind of a powerful quote here. That girl offered a rose to nothing and to nobody. We might be able to use that one later.
He was obsessed with it. Like in the movie, she was like getting with it for just a second. She was like,
Well, I mean, that's just it, yeah.
I went backstage and still found her holding on to that one rose. She put the rest of the bouquet aside. There were tears in her eyes. What did I do wrong? She said to me. Did I insult him in some way? No, I said. He always does this after performance. The minute it's over, he heads out as fast as I can. And tomorrow he'll disappear again without even taking off his makeup. And Saturday, she said, he'll stay for the cast party on Saturday, won't he? Harry never goes to parties. I said, when the curtain comes down on Saturday, that's the last anyone will see of him until he goes to work on Monday. How sad, she said. Helene's performance on Friday night. What page are we on? 26. There we go. Helene's performance on Friday night wasn't nearly as good as Thursday. She seemed to be thinking about some other thing. She watched Harry take off after the curtain call and she didn't say a word. So after she finds out how Harry really is, she's distracted, right? Things aren't going so well. So she has a worse performance. On Saturday, she put on the best performance yet. Ordinarily, it was Harry who set the pace, but on Saturday, Harry had to work to keep up with Helene. How come she's so all of a sudden upbeat? Like, what changed that's made her so, like, it's clearly not on her mind anymore, right? So we see that she has an amazing performance the next night. Now, we know why this happens, because she came up with a plan.
when the actors, you gotta have like chemistry together.
Yeah, you have to, well, they want to have the chemistry, right? Her chemistry came back. So when the curtain came down on the final curtain call, this is Saturday, Harry wanted to get away, but he couldn't. Helene wouldn't let go of his hand. The rest of the cast and stage crew, and a lot of well wishes from the audience were all standing around Harry and Helene, and Harry was trying to get his hand back. Well, he said, I've got to go. Where? She said. Oh, he said, home. Won't you please take me to the cast party? She said. He got very red. I'm afraid I'm not much on parties, he said. All that Marlon Brando in him was gone. He was tongue-tied, he was scared, and he was shy. He was everything that Harry was famous for being between plays. All right, she said, I'll let you go if you promise me one thing. What's that? He said, and I thought he would jump out a window if she would let him go. So again, he's so scared, like, and unconfident here, right? We see just how like lackluster he really is. I want you to promise to stay here until I go get your present, she said. Present, he said, getting even more panicky. Promise, she said. He promised. It was the only way he could get his hand back. And he stood there miserably, right? He's standing there miserably. A pretty girl's giving him a present. While Helene went down to the ladies' room for the present. While he waited, a lot of people congratulated him on being a fine actor, but congratulations never made him happy. He just wanted to get away. Helene came back with a present. It turned out to be a little blue book with a red ribbon for a place marker. It was a copy of Romeo and Juliet. Harry was very embarrassed. It was all he could do to say thank you. The marker marks my favorite scene, said Helene. Said Harry. Don't you want to see what my favorite scene is, she said. So Harry had to open the book to the red ribbon. Helene got a little close to him and read a line of Juliet's. How comest thou hither? Tell me and wherefore, she said. She read. The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here. She pointed to the next line. Now look what Romeo says. So just taking a step back here, how come she was such a good actor on Saturday night? Because she came up with this plan, right? Said Harry, read what Romeo says, said Helene. So hey, start acting again. Harry cleared his throat. He didn't want to read the line, but he had to. With love's light wings, did I approach these walls, he said aloud in his everyday voice. But then a change came over him. For stony limits cannot hold love out. He read, he straightened up, and 8 years dropped away from him, and he was all brave and gay. And what love can do, that dares love attempt, he said. Therefore thy kinsmen are no let to me. If they do see these, they will murder thee, said Helene, and she started him walking towards the wings. Alack, said Harry, there lies more peril in thine eyes than 20 of their swords. Helene led him towards the backstage exit. Look thou but sweet, said Harry, and I am proof against the enemy. I would not for the world they saw thee here, said Helene, and that was the last we heard. The two of them were out the door and gone. So what does she do? She gets him in character as Romeo and then takes him away. They never did show up to the cast party. 1 week later, they were married. They seem very happy, although they're kind of strange from time to time, depending on what play they're reading to each other at the time. So how do they keep this, relationship kind of working? Is they just keep on playing plays with each other. They keep on pretending to be different characters. I dropped into the phone company office the other day on account of the billing machine was making dumb mistakes again. I asked her what plays she and Harry had been reading lately. In the past week, she said, I've been married to Othello, who's been loved by Faust and kidnapped by Paris. Wouldn't you say I was the luckiest girl in town? I said, I thought so. I told her most of the women in town thought so too. They had their chance, she said. Most of them couldn't stand the excitement, I said. And I told her I'd been asked to direct another play. I asked if she and Harry would be available. She gave me a big smile and said, who are we this time? So yeah, they had their chance. So reason she's so excited about this is because she's so excited about Saturday because she came up with this plan and the plan worked, right? She managed to find a way to keep him interested. So we've done the plot already. Now what we want to do is we want to try and look at what are some of the themes of this play.
Seems like it takes place in an old, like a small town.
It definitely plays. It's in in a small town and stuff. But so an example of theme here would be like if you've seen the movie like Interstellar, one of the themes there is sacrifice. He has to not watch his daughter grow up so he can try and save her, right? Anyone think of any of the themes that might have been involved with this play? It's definitely it's a romance story for sure. The romance is definitely one of the themes, and I don't think we have to break down why, right? The whole play is about the falling in love. I'm confident you guys can do that. There's another theme as well. There's other themes as well. And we think about the characters and who they are. So we think about these characters, we think about Helene, we think about Harry. Do they seem like confident, like people? Not at all, really. So one of our major themes of this is like individuality. We think about it. Harry doesn't really have any, right? Harry's personality, his individuality. What's the right word for this? The Harry's personality gets deleted by whatever role he plays. Now, there's usually a term for this. We would say that he is a blank slate, right? He's like an empty canvas, a white canvas you can paint on. But when he's not a character, his personality is that he can interact with someone. Not only that, he doesn't really have a personality. When he's not acting, he's, just kind of in the background. So what about Helene? Like, what's her personality like here? Like, does she like who she is? Not really. So we know that Helene is unhappy with herself, but why? What is she unhappy about? Yeah, it's very, she seems to have a bland personality, and also, as you said, she has like a monotonous life, right? All she does is travel from town to town. Her entire life, that's all she's done. Not town to town. And neither of these characters, so neither of them can either give or like feel romance without playing character, right? Like they have to act in order to like act on their feelings.
You ever listen to what's that song by
Which song?
Oh my the chief?
I don't think so. Oh, the song or the story.
It's like she's like feeling space or something.
Oh. So yeah, those are some of the themes. There's more and stuff as well. Like there's the value of the characters as well. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to fully finish diving through this. Instead, what we'll do is I'm going to give you guys one more of those writing prompts things. I lied to you. This is still part of what we've done last week. I forgot to print it off, so I thought we were done. We are now done that first section, the self section. We'll move on to a new section starting tomorrow. So
So I'm just gonna pass this out here. Is it okay if I give you section 1, 2, 3, and 5? Yeah. Yeah, I still gonna finish that. So, so its genre here would still be, it would be short story fiction.
Probably romance, I would think,